We turn now to Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, Robby Mook. Robby, I want to start with you with the focus group that we have later in the broadcast. When we talked about this Donald Trump video of him talking about sexual assault, one woman, undecided voter, her first response is she said, quote, "First thing I thought of is, isn't Bill Clinton the same type of man?"
Well, first of all, we want this campaign to be about the issues, and I think that's what the voters want. And I think the video that came out of Donald Trump was horrifying and unfortunate. Look, the Clintons had a rough time in their marriage 20 years ago. That was litigated out. At this debate tonight and in the rest of this campaign, we want to focus on the issues, and that's what Hillary's going to do.
As voters are trying to figure out the role of character in the presidency, though, isn't Bill Clinton and his presidency, his character relative to the way he behaved, isn't that something they can keep in mind as they're trying to evaluate this recent episode with Donald Trump?
Well, I think Donald Trump's campaign is spiraling. They are trying to figure out a way to dig out of this mess. This race is between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton, not Donald Trump and Bill Clinton. And that's why we're going to continue to focus on the issues. If we need to discuss the issues that were raised in that video with Donald Trump, that's fine. But the question here is, what is Hillary Clinton's take on that issue, not her husband?
Let's talk about some of Hillary Clinton's positions on the issues. We have had this week some leaks about these speeches that Hillary Clinton gave to Wall Street banks. In one of the speeches, she said this, quote, "But if everybody's watching, you know, all of the backroom discussions and the deals, you know, then people get a little nervous, to say the least. So you need both a public and a private position." Isn't that idea that there is a public and a private position what worries voters about Hillary Clinton?
Well, let's be clear. I think there's a distinction between what goes on in negotiations and what her positions are on the issues and have been on the issues. Let's keep in mind, Hillary Clinton went to the floor of the NASDAQ in 2008 and said that the swaps and derivatives and what was going on with the mortgage lending market was wrong and was going to crash the economy, and she was right. She's called for closing the interest loophole for some time now. Her public position and what she's going to fight for as president are one and the same.
I guess what people would say, though, is she may have done that in public, but then the tone of these speeches, the easy familiarity with the people in the audience, shows that Bernie Sanders may have had something, he may have been right when he said, you know, she's telling him one thing in private, saying one thing in public. The message they're getting is you don't have to be too worried.
Well, that's not the message at all. And like I said, she went to the floor of that NASDAQ and said that what Wall Street was doing was wrong. And Bernie Sanders has come out and said he's reviewed this information, first of all, which we can't verify right now. So I can't speak to whether any of these documents or emails are actually correct. But regardless, Bernie Sanders himself has weighed in and said the choice in this election is clear. Donald Trump cannot become president. We have to elect Hillary.
Again, from this same batch of excerpts of those speeches on the question of trade, on the Trans-Pacific Partnership, that deal with 11 countries, she has said in the past the TPP sets the gold standard. She is now against the TPP in its current form, but in these speeches, she's talking about how it's moving along in the right direction. She says, I led the way on this. Again, we have this situation where there's a public and a private on the issue of trade, which is quite important to people.
Well, it's important to understand the context for this. First of all, when she was Secretary of State, it was her job to negotiate on this deal. She began that process, but she didn't finish it, and she certainly wasn't involved in the final language that went out. She had three key things that she said we need to have in any trade deal: that it needs to create jobs, that it needs to raise wages here in the United States, and it needs to be consistent with our security imperatives. And TPP didn't meet that test, the final language, which she wasn't a part of that final step in the process. But John, I think it's just really important to understand the context of all this. These documents were dumped out there by the Russian government. The Department of Homeland Security took the unprecedented step this week of saying this was beyond the shadow of a doubt the Russians, and they did it to help Donald Trump. They want us to be bogged down in this. We want to focus on the issues, and I can't verify any of these documents.
Well, the final then I'll ask you about is Donald Trump has said Hillary Clinton supports open borders. She has said absolutely wrong. Fact checkers have said wrong. But there's a quote in here: "My dream is a hemispheric common market with open trade and open borders." So she did say it.
Well, first of all, I can't verify these documents, but second of all, you clipped off the last part of the sentence, which she was referring to green energy. She said sometime in the future. She said that she wants a market where green energy can flow. She was talking about integrating green energy between North and South America. But again, I don't know that these are actually true. But if the question is, does Hillary Clinton support throwing open our borders? Absolutely not. And she's going to do everything she can to fight to protect the interests of workers in this country. That's actually why she voted against the Central American Free Trade Agreement when she was a senator.
All right, Robby Mook, we're going to have to leave it there.
Thanks.
We're out of time. Thanks so much.